A massive, severe weather event is coming, and I need you to understand the full scope of what is setting up over the next several days, because this is not a one-day story. This is a multi-day, multi-phase outbreak that is going to impact tens of millions of people from the southern plains all the way into the upper Midwest. And before I get into the big event later this week, there's a sneaky threat today and tomorrow that a lot of people are going to get caught off guard by. So let me walk you through everything day by day, because every single day this week has a different story and a different set of hazards you need to be aware of. Let me start with what is happening right now, because today is not a quiet day. We actually have severe weather threats firing across 3 completely separate parts of the country simultaneously, and one of them is going to genuinely surprise you. First, we have a marginal risk of severe weather across portions of the mid-Atlantic and interior Northeast. Storms will develop along a weak frontal boundary by early afternoon and push through areas near Pittsburgh, Buffalo, and Rochester, before weakening after sunset. The main threats there are going to be gusty winds in the 40 to 60 mile per hour range and some isolated small hail. Tornado risk today in the Northeast is very low due to a weak, low-level wind shear environment, but do not completely rule out a brief spin-up somewhere south of Pittsburgh this afternoon. Second threat today is across the southern plains, specifically the Texas Panhandle back into Oklahoma, New Mexico, and southern Colorado, where an isolated large hail risk exists ahead of a developing shortwave trough. Nothing extremely organized, but a few pulse storms could fire this afternoon and produce quarter to golf ball-sized hail before the cap shuts things down after dark. But the threat that is going to genuinely shock people today is across the northern Rockies. We are talking about a slight risk of severe weather across Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, and Utah, and the main concern is not hail, not tornadoes. It is wind. We're talking about the potential for 75 to 85 mile per hour wind gusts out of convective lines that develop this afternoon across the far northern Rockies. You do not see wind gusts at that magnitude out of convection in this region very often. If you live in Great Falls, Billings, Casper, or anywhere in that corridor, be ready for dangerous wind gusts this afternoon through early evening. Make sure anything that can blow around outside is secured before noon today. Now tomorrow is where things start to get more serious and more organized. The storm system that has been churning across the western United States begins to push its energy into the central plains on Thursday, and with it comes a more coherent, severe weather setup. We are looking at a level 2 out of 5 slight risk of severe weather centered across Kansas, with the greatest concentration of storm activity expected from Wichita north through Salina and up toward the Kansas City metro and Topeka. The marginal risk extends south into Oklahoma and north into Nebraska and Missouri. Thursday is primarily a large hail day. I want to be direct about that. The low-level jet is not particularly impressive on Thursday, which keeps the tornado threat very low. But the atmosphere will have enough instability and wind shear to support discrete supercells in the afternoon hours, and those supercells are capable of producing baseball-sized hail. If you live in the Wichita metro, the Kansas City metro, or anywhere along Interstate 70 in Kansas, your vehicle is at risk Thursday afternoon. Get it in a garage or covered parking before 2 p.m., local time if you can. Friday is essentially a progression of Thursday, but with more coverage and a slightly higher ceiling. The slight risk area expands to include more of Nebraska and pushes into portions of Missouri and Illinois. Storm activity will actually begin overnight. Thursday in some areas, as a complex of thunderstorms pushes as well. The tornado risk begins to increase on Friday, particularly near Kansas City and points north, as the low-level jet starts to intensify just a little bit compared to Thursday. I would not call Friday a major tornado day, but the isolated tornado risk is real, and it is higher than Thursday. This pattern is getting progressively worse day by day, and Friday is the confirmation of that trend. Now here is where I need your full attention, because Saturday, Sunday, and Monday are the days that have me most concerned. This is the heart of the outbreak, and I think Sunday and Monday in particular have the potential to be genuinely significant severe weather days at the regional scale. On Saturday, a new surface low develops across the southern plains, most likely in the Texas Panhandle region, and begins to organize the warm sector ahead of it. The low-level jet starts to increase across Oklahoma, Kansas, and into Iowa on Saturday afternoon and evening, and that is the ingredient that begins to elevate the tornado threat beyond what we saw Thursday and Friday. Saturday is still primarily a large hail and damaging wind day across Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, and Nebraska. But with the low-level jet ramping up through the evening hours, supercells that persist into the night could produce tornadoes. Overnight tornadoes are the most dangerous tornado scenario that exists in American meteorology. People are asleep. Warning lead times feel shorter because there's no visual. If you live in Iowa, Kansas, or Missouri and you're going to bed Saturday night, make sure your phone has wireless emergency alerts enabled and make sure your weather app notifications are turned on before you close your eyes. Do not assume Saturday night is quiet just because the daytime hours were manageable. Sunday is the day the European model has been advertising for most of this week, and every time I look at the Sunday setup, I become more concerned. The European model is showing a potent surface low developing across Kansas by Sunday afternoon, dropping to around 995 millibars. That is a deep, rapidly organized low-pressure system for the Central Plains, and when you combine that with the low-level jet values the models are now showing, which are running 30 to 40 knots across a corridor stretching from Texas all the way into Minnesota and Wisconsin, you have a tornado environment, not a marginal tornado environment. From Texas into Minnesota, Sunday is a day to have your shelter plan identified, your warning receipt method confirmed, and your preparedness completed before you wake up that morning. Do not wait for a watch to be posted to start thinking about where you are going if a warning is issued for your county. Monday may actually rival Sunday in terms of overall severe weather coverage, and that is saying something. As the low-pressure system lifts northeast on Monday, the main area of wind shear shifts slightly eastward and the threat corridor expands to include much of the Mississippi River Valley, Illinois, Indiana, and potentially Ohio. The entire setup from Oklahoma and Kansas back through Illinois and into Wisconsin is under significant severe weather risk for Monday with widespread damaging winds, very large hail, and the risk of strong tornadoes all on the table. I think the best concentration of tornado potential Monday will be in the corridor from Minneapolis down through Kansas City. But if you live in Dallas, Oklahoma City, or anywhere in the Central Plains, do not write Monday off because you will have at least some damaging wind and hail risk and a low-end tornado potential through the afternoon hours. Tuesday, the storm system starts to race northeast, and the severe weather setup becomes less organized as the wind shear decreases behind the departing low. There will still be some damaging wind and hail potential from Texas back into the Ohio Valley on Tuesday, and a low tornado risk does. The low-level jet is a concentrated ribbon of fast-moving wind in the atmosphere, typically between 3,000 and 5,000 feet above the surface. On a night when the low-level jet is running at 30 to 40 knots, it creates a rapid change in wind speed and wind direction with height, which is the precise atmospheric mechanism that causes thunderstorm. Updrafts to rotate. No low-level jet, no rotation. Weak low-level jet, isolated brief rotation. Strong low-level jet running 30 to 40 knots across an elongated corridor. Organized persistent rotation in supercells capable of producing strong and long-track tornadoes. That is what Sunday and Monday are showing on the models right now. It is why those 2 days have a higher ceiling than anything we have seen in this outbreak so far. Here is exactly where things stand right now. Today brings a sneaky wind and hail threat across 3 separate regions, including that dangerous wind setup in the northern Rockies. Thursday and Friday bring an escalating hail and wind threat across the Central Plains with a tornado risk beginning to creep upward by Friday afternoon. Saturday begins the serious overnight tornado window across Iowa, Kansas, and Missouri. Sunday is the headline day with a deep surface low, a powerful low-level jet, and a widespread damaging wind, very large hail, and significant tornado threat from Texas into Minnesota. And Monday follows up with more of the same shifted slightly east into Illinois, Indiana, and potentially Ohio. Make sure you are subscribed and notifications are on because we are going to have daily updates and live coverage as this outbreak develops. We will go live with storm chasers In the field, once we get into the Saturday through Monday window, this is the most active stretch of severe weather we have seen in May, and the next several days are going to demand your full attention. Stay weather aware, stay prepared, have a plan before this week gets going, and I will see you in the next update.